Well, hello. Happy Tuesday, you suckers. So, yesterday I had put up this video. If you see that little letter I there, you can go ahead and click on that. Check out the video. I made a video yesterday talking about America erasing its history. You can go check out that video and see what that's all about. But I put it on Facebook first. Then I put it on YouTube. And I got a lot of comments from that. So, like I always do around this time, I'm going to address the comments. Yeah. Let's go. Agreed. Like I said in the episode, you can see the little eye. Like I said in that episode, I wasn't interested in history at first because I just wasn't. It was just too much stuff to memorize and all that. And it wasn't until much later on when I got involved in other organizations that brought up other pieces of history. Then it was like, okay, now this is interesting. Now this some things make more sense. And from that point on, I've been learning about different parts of history since then. Next. Well, it's Schoolhouse Rocky, a chip off the block for your favorite Schoolhouse Rock. Yes, indeed, man. Yes, indeed. Schoolhouse Rock, it's funny because I don't know if they play things like that now. If I'm not mistaken, I've seen an article where they were saying they're kind of doing away with Saturday cartoons. But I remember growing up, we used to watch Schoolhouse Rock, for those who are not enlightened. And it gave us little bits of history through song. But you're right. Pieces like that were things that we learned as far as education was concerned. Now, is it correction? Is it erasure? I would have to agree. It is a correction, because that stuff was just craziness. But I think this is a bigger picture than that. It's a bigger picture, obviously. It's a bigger picture than Schoolhouse Rock. And I think that what that is beyond correction. I think it's correction to a fault. Because with this correction, we have different things happening with the holidays where they're not being observed or they're being changed around. And the thing is, the generation that comes in with these changes do not remember or recall, or unless their parents teach them, which a lot of them aren't, they don't know that part of history. Remember when we grew up, we knew that Columbus sailed the ocean blue in the year 1492. You understand what I'm saying? This was stuff that was embedded in our head. Generation now is learning that Christopher Columbus raped and pillaged Indians. You see what I'm saying? Next. Now, this one was very interesting, which is why I left it up there, because I wanted to give you time to read it and wasn't just something to flash through. But to me, that comment went along with what I was saying yesterday wholeheartedly. But it took me for a turn when it came for the disrespect for Donald Trump. I would need a clarification on what you mean by that. From what I'm gathering from it, again, you have the opportunity to correct me. You're saying that all these things that are happening to disrespect Donald Trump, to put him in a bad light. That's all I want to know with that. I don't want to build any more than from what I know. But I do have an interesting thing about Donald Trump that I think is going to get everybody's goat. Maybe I'll say something today. Maybe I'll do it another time. But for now, I just want to make sure I cover these comments. Thank you very much, and I miss y'all out there in SD too. You know. Next. I ain't gonna lie, I had to read this comment a couple times to kind of get it because it was almost like a cyclical comment, but it did make sense once I got it grasped in my head. And yeah, it is actually creating history, but is it a good I mean, history is history, but who wants history? I mean, I want real history. I want to know everything. You know what I mean? Not what somebody is figuring I should know or I should learn so that they can further control free will and free thought. That's my whole point with this whole thing. That's kind of the foundation and the basis of this whole thing, is that creating history should be events and things like that, not erasing events. It shouldn't be an event that you're erasing other events. Dig? Next. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Thanks for the help on this too. Um, yeah, I mean, again, now this is a friend of mine from California, just so I can make this point. Being out in California, I remember February would come, and there was no snow and all that stuff. So the things I was used to being on the East Coast and being a winter baby, being in the Midwest too, I remembered snow, and so certain things came with snow. And Black History, February, Black History Month, February, was one thing that used to come around. There was programs for it and scholarship possibilities for it and all sorts of things, essays, church programs. There was a whole lot of things that came with that. Not out where I was in California, though. And it was a melting pot of people. So, it wasn't that Black people were dominant out there, don't get me wrong, but it was a melting pot of people that were out there. And, there was no Three Kings Day. I pointed this out in the little, you see the little letter I. I pointed it out there. There wasn't a lot of things there. And actually, let me go back to something I just said about Black history. It got to a point, and correct me if I'm wrong, folks, okay, to further prove the point of erasing history, it got to the point now that with Black history creating an outrage amongst various communities, now you're hearing about how Black history is American history, which it is. Don't get me wrong, it's part of history. But this is what I'm saying. Now things are starting to morph into something else. Is that good or is that bad? Is that a form of erasing history? I appreciate you, my bro. Oh, and I still haven't checked out the forgetting. I'm going to check out the forgetting, and then I'm going to talk about that. All right. Appreciate that referral. Next. Agreed. 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 Being that I work in retail, we just last week set up stuff for Christmas, right? We were putting up all these Christmas decorations and dolls and wreaths, the trees, all that stuff we was putting it out, right? Now down the way, there's Halloween stuff still up. And I remember thinking, and I actually said to somebody, yo, do you realize that it's not even Halloween yet? Cheers to you, man. Cheers to you. It does drive you crazy. There was a time that I used to love Christmas, and it was a time I used to love Thanksgiving and stuff. But Christmas would probably be the holiday most people love the most. And now they just kind of took it away, man. Like, well, number one, I don't like buying gifts. I don't like spending money in Christmas and being broke by New Year. That I don't like. And each year I get better with that, so I'm not broke when the New Year comes. But I don't like that feeling. I didn't like that feeling. That's one thing I didn't like about Christmas. But the next thing is, you're right. You start hearing about all these new toys and new gadgets. You gotta have this. You gotta have this. You gotta have this. You gotta have this. And by the time Christmas comes, man, you're not even thinking about the apple cider or eating at relative's house and Just getting your family together and laughing and joking about the year and years past, and what's coming up in the next year. You just, it's like it's just not the same, just not the same. Next. This one is one of my favorite comments because this is exactly what the foundation of the whole conversation I had with the lady was all about. Is I was saying that with political correctness has made people think a certain way as if to, again, take away free will and free thought. It's, don't say this about these type of people. Don't say this about this. Say this. And because that has happened, those are the foundations of a lot of our change. You don't call what we would call a retarded kid, they're now mentally challenged. And then it gets so far as, not blind, but visually challenged. Listen, all that sugarcoating stuff is crap, man. It's crap. But it also is a tool to get you to think a certain way. It takes free thought and says, don't say that, say this. It's almost like your parents. Yet these people that are coming up with this are not your parents. You understand what I'm saying? So with the political correctness, it has gone so far as to change holidays and change things that we grew up valuing, right or wrong, good or bad, but we end up valuing them and was able to come up with our own thoughts on certain things. Now things are just steered a certain way with political correctness. So I appreciate that comment very much. Next. Whew. Now see that comment right there, man. Number one, if you want to check out this whole conversation, go right on up here, check it out. But definitely around that time that comment was said, that's when you really want to check it out. That comment stirred up a huge conversation that I can agree with both parties on. Okay, and I'd rather you just go check it out, man. I'm not gonna get into it. It caused a lot of controversy, but I will say this: there is some truth to it, and as much as people may not understand it. Some people do, like the person that was arguing with her about this, but some people don't understand it. There's a lot of conditioning that went on, and there's books that prove this. There's scientific things that happened to us as Black people that we were conditioned, like the whole Willie Lynch thing. Check out Willie Lynch, and you'll see this was conditioning and programming that had been happening for years and years and years, and continues to happen. That has us thinking a certain way and doing certain things, and it puts us in a slave mentality. We're still in a slave mentality. And while people don't understand, well, how come Black people can't do this? And, Black people can't do this. If you don't read these things as far as Willie Lynch, and you don't understand slavery, especially not from our perspective, and you aren't going through the things that we're going through, there's nothing I could tell you. And this is not where I'm going to fight you on this. Just do the research. You can say whatever you want to say. I may address it, I may not. But if you are not a Black person who has gone through some of these things, or watched your family go through these things, or even see and hear stories about members of your family going through things, like I said in an episode I've had before, I knew someone who was a child. Not knew someone. I was related to and met and did a report on a relative who was my grandfather's aunt, okay, who remembered her parents being slaves. Now, if you don't have stories about your relatives in your family who were slave masters or slaves, you can't tell me nothing. I didn't have to read that. I heard the stories, okay? So with that being said, that's the end of that kind of thing. You can say what you want. That's cool. And again, I might address it, but I'm not going to make an old big whole story out of it, because then the trolls come out and ignorance comes out. And some people, again, like the person who's arguing with her on this position, make valid points, but 90% of you do not. And I don't want to get involved in that. And I'm going to end it with this saying from someone who made a comment before. Listen, I thank y'all for rocking with me as long as y'all have. This is probably one of the longest videos I've ever put out there, but a very important one to me. So y'all just let some of that sink in, and I'll come back with something else. I'm not going to talk about the Trump thing now. I'll bring it up another time. Y'all be good. Take it easy. Love y'all. Thanks for supporting me.
This concludes the broadcast from World Control.
Let's pretend like this never happened.
Hey, see my name right there? Go ahead and type that in or snap this photo to join me on Snapchat. Hey, thanks for supporting me. And if you didn't already, see your head right there? Go ahead and press that to subscribe. And go ahead and check these videos out. You know, because why not? What else are you doing? Watch this one. Why don't you watch another one? Later.